All right, well, good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the May 11th, 2022 meeting of the Brentwood Planning and Zoning Commission. I'll call the meeting to order. If we could please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We do have some new members of the commission joining us this evening, so we'd like to welcome all of you. With that, actually, we'll move right into roll. Mr. Moran, please.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Mark Vavazza.
Here.
Matt Foreman. Here. Carl Carlin. Here. Leslie Nichols. Jeff Hunt. Here. Tricia Graves. Jeff Moore. Here. John Ritter. Lisa Shearing.
Here.
Hart Nelson.
Here.
Sherry Bilderback. John Nemberger. And Paul Moran here. We have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Mr. Moran. The next order of business is approval of the agenda. Has the commission had a chance to look over the agenda? Any modifications or changes? If not, any objections to approving the agenda by acclamation? Seeing none, the agenda is approved. Next order of business is the minutes. The minutes from the April 13th meeting have been distributed. Any adjustments or changes that need to be made to the minutes? Just one small thing, I think there's a typo in acclamation. There's just a spelling typo in that, so if that could get corrected for the minutes, I would appreciate it. I know that hasn't been our typical practice. All right, any objection to approval of the minutes by acclamation? Seeing none, the minutes are approved. Next item of business is citizen comments. Does anyone have any business with the Planning and Zoning Commission regarding issues or concerns that are not part of the agenda? Seeing none. We will move on to old business, moving right along. First order of, well, actually, our only order of old business is case there is 22007, rezoning the property at 200 Hamline Industrial Court from the PD Plan Development Overlay District to the UD Urban Development District, and a site development plan and conditional use permit application for a new 273,000 square foot elevator apartment facility and a 26,604 square foot Planet Fitness facility. As the commission may recall, we heard this in our last meeting, and I believe we have some updates if the petitioner would come forward or this applicant would come forward. And I think we just had a little bit of new information, but I'll turn it over to you to refamiliarize us with the project.
Thank you, Chair Nelson, members of the commission. My name is Mike Doster. I am the land use attorney on the development team for the petitioner, and we do have some additional information to present to you this evening arising out of the last meeting of the commission on April 13th. And just as a brief refresher, we are before the commission on a request to rezone 200 Hamline Industrial Court from PD Plan Development Overlay District to UD Urban Development District, and also seeking approval of site development plan and a conditional use permit. And we are asking the commission to allow me a short interruption here while she
absolutely.
hooks this up.
Technology waits for no one. We're good.
Yeah.
Actually, just one order of housekeeping too for folks who aren't familiar with the tables here with our benches. Please do make sure you press the red button when you're asking questions or comments, just so that it can be recorded, so that folks that are watching this online can hear us.
Thank you, Chair Nelson and Commissioners, for that brief interlude. What I was starting to say was we were before the Commission this evening requesting the Commission's recommendation of approval on 3 items. First, rezoning from PD Plan Development Overlay to UD Urban Development District. 2, approval of a conditional use permit, and that conditional use permit is needed for this proposal to approve the height and also approve the health club gymnasium use. As some of you may recall, this development is a combined use of apartments and a fitness facility, Planet Fitness specifically. And we're also before you this evening asking for your recommendation of approval of a site plan, and our other members of the team, Josh Barkus specifically, will come up to the podium and go over that with you briefly. So the open items from last time are accurately portrayed in the memo that Whitney Kelly submitted to you. Hopefully all of you have seen that and read through it, and Josh is going to take you through those items. There are about 4 items that were open items from last time, and they have all been satisfactorily addressed, I believe, in staff's opinion and in our opinion. Last thing I want to say is I know in the memo there are conditions recommended to be attached to the conditional use permit, and I want to represent to the Commission that all of those conditions are acceptable to the petitioner.
Thank you, Mr.
And with
Doster.
that, I'd like to turn it over to Josh.
Thank you, Mr. Doster.
Good evening, Commissioner, or members of the Commission. As Mike had stated, there were 4 open items from our last meeting here. One of them was regarding the parking reduction and the amount of landscaping that we had around the site. Per the staff report and the memo that was provided, those have all been worked out through review of the city's outside review agency. Part of it was to add site triangles and site distance study. The site distance study was outlined within the report that CBB had on the southern entrance onto Hamline Industrial Court, looking to the right as if you were making a left turn to get out to the signal at Hamline Road. There is a item in the memo regarding the setback from the east property line for the fire lane only. It says 3.5 feet, but it's actually 4 to the pavement, and if that consideration isn't given, we can shift the building to 12 inches to provide that if the Planning Commission feels that that would be the more prudent move. And the other item was regarding an existing tie wall. So we've spoken with AT&T. There's an existing cabinet that sits next there that's been abandoned and we can remove. The tie wall is not part of their infrastructure, so we're still tracking down whose that is. In either scenario, we'll either remove it or it will be built of a material that's more complementary to the building to hold up whatever that infrastructure piece is. So this is the site plan that we had shown last time. The only modification to this are the site triangles that we show at each of the entrances, just to show where we would respect and move the monument sign out that's shown at the central entrance on the planned south side to the right. And this is the site distance study that was outlined in the CBB report. So we've shown, using the county guidelines, the car that would be exiting the site on the south entrance, his view to the right, as if he were needing to make a left turn out to the signal. So that site distance shows that their line of sight 3 feet above grade, which is, or 3.5 feet above grade, as if you're sitting in the car, allows you to see over that existing wall to the stop sign of that intersection so you can see the oncoming traffic. This is just the landscape plan. The updates to this plan include the addition of street tree, 1 or 2 to meet the spacing requirements along the Hamline Industrial Court, respecting the site distance triangles that we have at each of the entrance, pulling all of that back and making sure that all of the landscape within is below a certain height at its highest point so that folks can see over it whenever they're trying to maneuver out of the site. And then the remainder of it was to wrap more landscaping around this corner at the intersection of Hamline Industrial Court and Hamline Industrial Court on the planned southeast corner of the building. And so those were the items that we had discussed last time, and the plans represent those changes.
I believe we have a second report from Mr. Frankie as well on those topics. Is that correct? Okay.
I believe so. And in the memo, I believe that found that those were acceptable to meet the parking reduction criteria.
And just to make sure, I do notice you mentioned a proposed sign, but unless, and I may have missed it, but I don't believe there is not a comprehensive site plan as of yet still. That's
There is not.
outstanding.
We just wanted to show that
Gotcha.
we would place that monument sign and respect those site triangles.
Making sure I didn't miss anything. Thank you. Any questions? Actually, staff report, please, if we could first. Any updates? I know we've gotten some.
I did do a PowerPoint, but I don't know if it's needed. So, right. Just a second. So, yes, as the applicant has indicated, this is, Andy frankly did provide a second review and found that the landscaping was sufficient to meet the parking reduction intent, requirement of the code. The discussion is not only on the east side of the property, but also on the north side was the fire lane access. The city's parking regulation says that there shall be 5 feet between any parking and drive aisles. This is a fire access lane that will only be used for fire trucks in case of emergency. So that is an interpretation that the board and the planning and zoning can make. In this instance, however, the applicant has indicated that they can shift it approximately a foot to meet that requirement if you feel that that is necessary. We also did receive, after the meeting last time, one of the members of the public did indicate that the road, half of the road is actually privately owned, and he asked for consideration for any damage during construction. So if you want to include a condition for such, that would be something that you would need to discuss with the applicant and include as part of any motion. Further, we did receive a public comment from the property to the north who is asking for car wash during the midst of construction due to the debris. The applicant had indicated that they will be meeting all of the stormwater SWIP program, stormwater and participation, and keeping the dust down. And don't feel like that would be necessary, but that might be a discussion that you want to have with them. And if you want to have that included as a condition, that will also need to be included as part of any motion. The prior discussion largely wanted to hear from the city's traffic engineer on the overall parking and interior layout. Lee Cannon cannot be here tonight. He got sick, so he has his associate or partner, Brian Brentwood, sorry, here to present. If you want to,
Appreciate that. That was a big piece we're waiting on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. Hi, my name is Brian Rensing. I'm a traffic engineer with CBB. We did a traffic impact analysis or assessment here at the location. And basically, there's minimal congestion and queuing right now. The additional traffic generated by the proposed apartments and fitness facility would generate some trips, but it would not really create any congestion or any concerns for us at Hamline Industrial Court and Hamline Industrial Court. We had identified the concern of the site distance, which they have addressed. So, we really have no concerns about traffic in this area. We did review their parking memo, and they will provide adequate parking. So we believe that their parking and traffic will be adequate. So is there any other additional questions?
I think this is new information. Any questions from the commission? I know we were waiting for CBB, so appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Mr.
Oh,
Chairman.
sorry, I'm sorry. Mr.
Quick
Moore?
question.
I
And I'm not
apologize.
certain it's for CBB. It could be best addressed by the applicant, but I'm having trouble getting my head around this 3.5 or 4 foot setback, if you will, on the eastern property line. Is that correct? And what I'm going to drive at is whether or not fire safety is aware of that and approved it, so.
That was a requirement for the fire district, was to provide that access, and the ladder truck can meet the whole corner of that, which is why it was provided. So they are aware of that. The issue before the board is the zoning code requires 5 feet from the property line to any parking or drive aisles. This is only used for fire access for the fire truck in case of emergency, and we would require that it would be signed that way to prohibit any parking. But if you want to have it to be consistent, you can include a condition that, that the building shifts to meet that requirement at 5 feet.
And the plan currently is drawn at 3.5?
It's 4 feet to the pavement.
4.
4 feet to the pavement. So, but we would take no exception if the condition would be to respect the 5 feet.
And what is the consequence of that? I'm trying to, we're just talking about a landscaping area, correct?
That's correct.
All right.
On the side that abuts the MetroLink. So east is Plan North as we look at it, and then the north is the adjacent property. So we would shift the building to the Plan right and to the Plan South by 12 inches. And we have adequate room in the sidewalks that are there that it wouldn't change any of the parking or the geometry of things.
Can I jump in?
Absolutely.
I'm Jeff Mugg. I'm part of the owner development team. We would rather not shift the building. So this is on the back side of the building. It's between the building and the metro tracks. You can't see it. The only time anybody would be back there would be the event of a fire. We would much rather have the foot in front of the building for the addition. I mean, I realize it's only a foot, but we'd rather have that for the landscaping, some trees, additional room for the sidewalk, as opposed to giving it over on the backside, which literally nobody can see. I'm stepping up, hopefully, kind of making what's a non-issue, maybe a non-issue.
And I appreciate that. Really what it was is my question, I was confusing the width of the fire lane
Yeah.
with the buffer of landscape. So
Yeah, so this was.
that's been clarified for me.
Yeah, and this whole piece was very carefully worked out with the fire department, lots of conversations, and we worked that through with them. And again, it's just the way it works back there, no one will see it. Literally, it's hidden by the metro tracks and the retaining wall that's back there.
And I would amplify that having the extra space on the west side of the building probably is a benefit to parking and
Yes,
access
yes,
on the front side.
Yeah,
So,
that's why I stepped up, exactly.
thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions from commissioners? Okay. We did have, actually, the one question I was going to ask on public comment, so I do understand we had, is anyone from Music Construction, I believe it was public comment here. Yeah, we do have their comment. Ms. Kelly, is this, so there was a request for certain actions to be taken. A couple questions there. Is this a common request, what has been asked for in construction projects? I haven't seen it in my time on the commission, so I just wanted to see if it was a common request.
I haven't seen it before. Kevin, are you aware of any cities that have required car washes?
It would be extraordinary.
Okay. That answers that question. And I would then expect, at least in your knowledge of Brentwood, I'm not familiar with it, but just has Brentwood ever required this as conditional use, or part of conditional use, or a project?
Well, I have only been with the city since August, so not quite a year, but I have not seen that. I do have some anecdotal that due to a construction project in Richmond Heights, the city provided car wash cards for the car wash on Manchester during construction, but that was for a project outside the city, and therefore it was not a requirement at that time. I don't know the specifics of that project or how that agreement came about.
Let me turn around again. Mr. Doster, have you seen this public comment, and I guess would the owners group have any comment on this?
Well, first of all, Chair Nelson, I've never seen it.
Okay.
And I don't know how legally the city or the petitioner could administer such a program. I would like Josh to speak to what we do have to adhere to in terms of controlling dust and air quality and all of that.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Oops, sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but the city administrator just texted in that it has not been a practice of the city to provide this.
Appreciate it. Thank
That's
you.
correct. And per the city's code, which is section 400.2660, it's the SWIP requirements that is part of the construction documents, and they follow the county guidelines, which include reporting on a weekly basis of all the requirements that are reviewed as part of the construction permits. And within there is dust control, and they have management items, and that's per St. Louis County and their stormwater pollution prevention plan guidelines. And then while we're here in regard to the public/private roadway, what we've seen typically on projects, and St. Louis County has applied this as well, is that prior to the issuance of construction permits, you document the conditions of the roadways, and you provide that to the city and their public works to review, to understand any deficiencies that do or don't exist before the construction begins. And then there's a review at the end of the project before closeout of the actual permits as well. So it can be monitored and documented. Either they actually require video of the area, and we would expect all of our construction traffic to come off Hanley Road because of the highway access and just shortly into the site where our driveways are shown.
Okay. And then you'd be bonded if any damage was obviously, okay.
Right, and it would be a condition of the contractor, part of his permit, not necessarily on the development team.
Understand.
Thank you.
Mr. O'Keefe?
Mr. Chairman, I was just going to add that issuing permits, the construction permits or the land use approvals, does not give the permittee the right to destroy other people's property. If they do that, we've got whole buildings devoted to sorting out those disputes over in Clayton, and people sitting around waiting for someone to come in with a dispute for them to settle. So I think that's the place, not here.
Thank you, Mr. O'Keefe.
The city administrator provided an additional comment in that even though the city purchased car wash coupons for Brentwood Forest residents, the residents did not use any of them at that time, so.
I appreciate the input. Thank you. Any other questions from the commission? Any member of the public wishing to address the commission on this project? All right, folks, we have a number of items in front of us. I believe staff report had recommendation at this point. However, the chair will entertain a motion if there is one.
I move to recommend approval of the, oops, sorry, wrong one. I move to pass the resolution to include the site plan, the CUP, and the...
Rezoning.
Yep, thank you very much.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
It's a pretty horrible one to second. Thank you.
All right. Roll call vote, please.
Right, Mark Favazza,
Yes.
Matt Foreman,
Yes.
Carl Carlin,
Yes.
Jeff Hunt,
Yes.
Jeff Moore,
Yes.
Lisa Shearing,
Yes.
Paul Moran, yeah. That's unanimous, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Motion passes, and we appreciate it. We look forward to seeing the project move forward.
This will be,
Yes.
have a public
Excuse me,
hearing.
to the Board of Aldermen.
This is scheduled for the public hearing and first review at the Board of Aldermen on Monday, the 16th. This Monday, this coming Monday, yeah. I can,
I've now worked out where it is.
just a few minutes. All right.
This one right here. Along. Hanley, Leclerc, yeah.
Or in business. All right, next item of business is new business, although it is something that we have some familiarity with on the commission. This is 22006, conditional use permit and a site development for the renovation and a 3,224 square foot addition to the Animal Protective Association of Missouri, APA, facility located at 1705 South Hanley. I believe the applicant is present. Could you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit, update us on your plans?
Tracy Papillo, I'm an attorney with Cape Sokol. We're here this evening on the APA's conditional use permit and site development application. In support of the application, this evening you're going to hear from Sarah Javier, the CEO and president of the APA. She's going to give you a little bit of background and explain the need for this project. You're going to hear from Amy Shearer. She is the project architect with Keeley Construction, and she's going to talk about the project and the build out. And then you're going to hear from me, just letting you know, describing how we satisfy the criteria for the approval of the CUP. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Sarah.
Thank you. Good evening. So as Tracy shared, I'm president and CEO of the APA. At a previous meeting, we had actually shared a lot of background about the APA and how we had been in the community for 100 years. We're a pretty expansive resource to the Brentwood community as well as our region as a whole. Each year, we help over 4,500 homeless pets find homes. We provide wellness services that make pets in our community healthier, and we provide educational programming for all ages that makes our community more kind and compassionate. We also provide opportunities for volunteering and community engagement and serve as a resource when a stray animal is found and help those animals also get back to their families. When a person needs to find a new home for their pet, we're there to help them, or when a family wants to add a furry family member to their crew, we help them with that as well. We have been at our location on Hamline since 1947. While we've managed to make that space work for many, many years, we've reached a point where updates are necessary in order to continue providing high-quality care to pets who need us, as well as the Brentwood community. Those updates will not only enable us to create better spaces for those animals, but it will make it possible for us to create efficiencies in our work, which translates to a better and more safe environment for our team. It will also enable us to use new technologies and materials that improve the space to make it better for animals, our staff, our customers, our neighbors, and our community. The work that we do at the APA is governed by the Department of Agriculture, which ensures we're meeting their very strict standards for animal care. We also ensure that everything we do aligns with or exceeds industry best practice. The renovations to our building will make this much easier to achieve, as every element has been designed with this in mind. This evening, as Tracy shared, you will hear from Amy, who will talk a little bit more about the specifics of our plan. So I want to thank you again for allowing us the opportunity to talk to you and share this plan, and I hope that you will help us move forward.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Amy Shearer with Keeley Construction. Thank you for having us here. So as we talked about, I am the project architect with Keeley Construction and responsible for the design and hopefully execution of this project if we move forward. So one of the main things that we wanted to work out is that the existing building obviously was non-conforming, as was the site. So we have redesigned with some small modifications some of the landscape and parking to allow for a 20-foot wide aisle all the way back for fire truck access. So that has changed the parking a little bit, in which now we have 10 compact car spaces, but we still exceed the required amount of parking. We require 50, and we actually provide 54. This is the landscape plan. Most of the landscape we're going to keep there. It's been actually very nicely done and maintained. For any of the new islands that we're putting in, we will put in new trees per the landscape ordinances on file. We also, part of the reason that we have the compact spaces is that so that we can maintain the 5-foot landscape buffer in between the adjacent property line and the parking curb. These are just some flat elevations. This is the existing front elevation as you see it from Hanley. As you can see, you really can't see our addition from the street. It's slightly, the addition roof is slightly lower than the existing high entry roof from what you see at Hanley. It's a very long building, so this is only the east end, but this is the north elevation. So if you were coming down the parking lot, this is what you would see kind of in the first half of the building. You'll notice that we have a new portal to identify the clinic entrance and a cover that will not extend any further than the current awning or the current walk. But mostly all the other finishes will stay in place as they are. This is the west end of that same facade. So this shows the extent of the addition and renovation. So we will be taking what is now a covered exterior dog exercise area and storage. We will be enclosing that and repurposing some of those spaces, and then we will be adding a second story in order to provide office space for the staff, and that will allow on the first floor, eventually we will reconfigure the first floor to add some of these new suites and better technology and services for the animals and people. This is the west elevation, as you would see it on the very back side of the parking lot. So what we're proposing to use, and this gives you a better idea, and I have a finished board here that we can look at in a moment. Basically, we're using a fiber cement panel system. It's a rain screen system. It's a smooth finish, complementary in color to the existing building. And then we also will be using fiber cement trim in the same colors. We'll be using anodized insulated storefront system for the glazing. We'll have a new overhead metal door to provide easy access for shipments coming in and anything going out. And then we will be keeping the existing ramp and doorway that is currently under the metal shed roof. And there still will be an exterior dog exercise area, but that will be mostly enclosed by the second story and the new insulated wall on the south side. This is what you would see if you were on the roof looking at the second story. So we've provided a covered area for both break, but also if the APA were to have after-hours events for donors or other purposes, this would also provide a really nice space for those events to occur. And as you can see, we're adding a little bit of a material change here. Mostly we still have the smooth face cement panel, but we're also introducing a wood look fiber cement panel system to complement that and contrast. I will be using a steel and glass railing to basically keep those areas enclosed and safe. Not that anybody really sees this except for from the parking garage, but this would be, if we kept walking around the building, this was the south elevation on the west end. So this is a continuation of kind of what we saw with the fiber cement panel system and the existing block wall that's painted. And then likewise, this is the south elevation on the east end, showing that existing high entry element, as well as the existing block wall structure. And then here are some elevations showing kind of what we're looking at now. These have been updated with the newest plan as far as the landscape and what have you. So as you can see, we have a nice wide aisle heading along the side there, but we still have ample landscaping to break up the parking. And this is as you go further down the parking area. So this gives you a better view of kind of the contrasted materials, but also the complementary nature of the smooth panel fiber cement board system. And then this would be kind of a flat looking south right at the very end. There is the existing door that we're keeping in place, and then we'll be adding an exterior door to allow access for some of the organizations that also receive donations from the APA. And this is the west facade. So you can see that we have the covered dog exercise area, as well as the new offices above, and the area where we're going to be allowing for loading and unloading of materials with the overhead door. As an aside, in these images you see that in all of them that there is lighting, all of the lighting is existing, and that's all to remain. And one of the concerns that had been raised was about noise. I know that further south on Hanley, there is I think it's a watering bowl, dog, I guess, boarding sort of place. So we wanted to address those concerns. First and foremost, that particular location is actually surrounded much more closely by its neighbors. So, whereas we have, parking garage and a Metrolink and another parking lot in between our area and where any dogs might be outside, they're much closer, maybe 10 feet or less. Also, at that facility, at the watering bowl, I think they have, several dogs outside at any given time, 10 or more. Whereas here, dogs will be individually walked, and we have 3 separate areas where they go. And it's very rare that dogs would be interacting and playing with each other. So there's less likelihood that they're going to be loud and barking on the exterior. And also there's more space as far as adjacency goes. But that being said, we also wanted to show that we are also addressing those concerns. So on this diagram here, the upper left, we're talking about sound transmission coefficient, STC. So that kind of ranges to, very poor, which is 25, where, normal speech could be understood. So that's, very thin wall or metal panel or something like that. And we move up to, 50 and 60, where, at STC 50, loud sounds are very faintly heard, and 60 plus is, very good soundproofing. So on the upper right, I have a section cut from the original drawings of what the construction is of that existing dog exercise area. So there is a cement block wall on the sides, and then there's basically just single ply roofing over half-inch overlay board on 1.5-inch metal deck. If we do an analysis of that, that gives us an SDC of 28, which is obviously very poor. The walls give us a little more protection. The existing walls, they're 8-inch concrete masonry units. They give us an STC of 44 to 49, which is okay, but we can still hear loud speech, but not maybe discern it. What we're proposing to do is that rear structure, we're going to remove the roof and the block walls, and those will be rebuilt with metal stud, insulated, continuous insulation on the exterior, gyp board on both sides, as well as the fiber cement board of siding. So with that all put together, and that's just the wall structure itself, that gives us an STC of 56, which that actually gives us in a much better sound transmission coefficient realm, where we're now between loud sounds being very faintly heard to good soundproofing. Likewise, sorry, that was the roofing. The walls gives us 49 to 54. The roof would be single ply roofing over half-inch overlay board over metal deck, but then we would have 3-inch polyiso insulation, batt insulation, acoustic tile ceiling on the interior. There's an asterisk there that says basically that's only taking the roof structure into account. It does not take into account that we actually also have an intermediary floor structure and more ceiling below that that will decrease the sound transmission further. So we really feel that with all of these measures, we'll be greatly reducing the amount of sound that would be transmitted if anybody were to hear it. And I think with that, Tracy is next.
Let me offer up before I walk through the CUP criteria and why we meet them. If you have any technical questions, I clearly am not going to be able to answer those. So if Amy if you have any questions about the plans, she is definitely the person to ask.
I think that maybe we'll move forward, we'll get to staff report, and then we can ask questions at that point. Just take it all in. Appreciate it.
So section 400.670 of the Brentwood Code sets forth the criteria for granting a CUP. And as I'm sure you're aware, that section provides that the Board of Aldermen shall approve a conditional use unless it finds that the application and evidence presented clearly indicate that the proposed conditional use will have certain adverse consequences. I think the key fact to considering this request, and one that plays a role in considering many of the CUP factors, is the fact that this use has been at this location since 1947. Because the APA's use has been part of the Brentwood community for over 7 decades, and given the modest expansion, it's only a little over 3,200 square feet, there are none of the enumerated negative impacts that are set forth in 400.670. I think the staff report reached that same conclusion, but I want to walk through the factors quickly. The proposed expansion and the grant of the CUP will not increase traffic hazards or congestion. It's not anticipated that the proposed renovation will impact the number of employees or visitors. It will not increase fire hazards. There's little to no increase in risk based on the 3,200 square feet expansion. And as mentioned in the staff report, there will be a fire and safety inspection in connection with building permits. It also will not affect the character of the neighborhood. The APA actually is part of the current character of the neighborhood, and it has been for a very long time. It will not affect the general welfare of the community in a negative way. In fact, it has a tremendous positive impact on the welfare of the community. And we talked a little bit about these factors when we were here before with respect to the text amendment. And just to remind you of some of the impressive numbers of the APA, 1,013 adoptions to Brentwood residents. And I don't know if we've updated that number. There could be even more now since we were previously here. The APA brings customers to Brentwood businesses. The on-site wellness clinic provides affordable veterinary care to Brentwood residents. The APA provides programs to Brentwood senior communities. 108 Brentwood residents volunteer. And as Sarah was talking about, it provides shelter to strays in Brentwood. Those strays are brought in sometimes through police officers, sometimes through residents, and helps reunite lost pets with their owners. The grant of the CUP and the proposed renovations will not overtax public utilities. As I mentioned before, the 3,200 square feet will have very little impact on public utilities. Compliance with all other applicable provisions of this chapter. This was addressed in the staff report. It's a pre-existing site, and there are some nonconformities. I'm not aware that there will be any additional nonconformities, and the existing ones have been addressed to the best of our ability. The CUP will contribute to and promote the welfare and convenience at this location. I ran through in my previous slide what the APA does for the Brentwood community. It will not cause injury to the value of the neighboring property. Again, that's one of those things I talked about. Hey, it's been here since 1947. This is not a new use. It's not going to affect the value of the surrounding properties. I'm aware of no noise complaints, and then Amy went through the fact that this renovation will only increase the soundproofing of the facility. The use complies with the city's comprehensive plan. The 2018 comprehensive plan designates this piece of property as public, semi-public. The comprehensive plan defines or provides the public, semi-public land use category includes uses that provide public services and facilities to Brentwood residents and businesses, and the APA certainly does that. The 10th factor has to do with erosion control and on-site stormwater detention. That's not applicable in this case. The staff report points that out. And the last factor, it will be compatible with the surrounding area and will not impose a burden or have a negative impact on surrounding or adjacent uses or on community facilities or services. Again, this is a use that's compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. It's a use that's been compatible for over 70 years. So in sum, we are asking you to recommend approval of a conditional use permit, approval of the site plan. I have one request that deviates from the recommendation of the staff report, and that's my issue. I cannot read that little tiny writing that was on our application, and I want to make clear. So the APA operates 7 days a week, and so the recommendation was that it would be Monday through Saturday, 10 to 6, and then on Saturday, 10 to 4. The current hours of operation that it's open to the public are 10 to 6 Monday through Friday, and then 10 to 4 on Saturday and Sunday. So we ask that those be the recommended hours. And again, that's consistent with our current hours of operations to the public.
Thank you. Ms. Kelly, staff report or other things to add?
Just one second. Let's start.
You're welcome to take your seats. I know it's awkward to stand there when we get to discussion.
Oh, someone needs to close off their click. Yeah. So Whitney Kelly, Director of Planning and Development for the City of Brentwood. As the applicant has indicated, they are seeking a conditional use permit for and that includes a new 3,224 square foot addition. The property was, as you know, this was recently discussed, but we do have new members, so I'll briefly go through that. This was originally zoned light industrial and was rezoned to the urban district in 2017 to facilitate the development of the Town Place Suites just to the north. It was a non-conforming use in the LI district and was a non-conforming use in the UD district, so just last month they received approval to have their use particularly as defined as an animal rescue, shelter, and adoption, including the provision of related services for those animals such as veterinary care, pet owner resources, and educational programming as a conditional use in the urban district. And this was in order to facilitate the request for the addition. So as the applicant has indicated, I apologize if it's blurry, the existing site has some pre-existing nonconformities. The addition is over existing covered area. The drive aisle is at 13 feet 3 inches. The fire district asked that it be widened to a minimum of 20 for fire access along the entire length of the building. The zoning code requires that any two-way drive aisle is 23 feet, but given the pre-existing condition, they are making an improvement and therefore, and meeting with the fire access requirements. The use of materials is a fiber cement board, and there is a little bit of ephes on the north elevation over to create a nicer element on the existing entrance on that elevation. So, and as they went through here. So they are adjusting and asking for, the Planning and Zoning Commission can approve up to 30%, I believe, of the parking to be used for compact spaces. And because of the adjustment of the parking lot to accommodate the fire access, they are asking for 10 spaces to be redesigned to compact. And so that is a discussion, that is a requirement that the Board of Aldermen would need to, and the Planning and Zoning would need to approve that by the site development plan. The side and rear yards in the UD district are setback shall not be less than 15 feet. However, the Board of Aldermen may reduce this requirement to 5 feet where the use and the development of the abutting properties is defined and provided for in a previously approved site plan. The existing structure is 5 feet, and so the addition follows in line with that. The building to the south is actually a structured garage, as the applicant has indicated. So we felt that this was in keeping with that requirement, but is a requirement specific that the board and the Planning and Zoning Commission review and approve that. The use of the UD district does include some architectural standards regarding the use of metal siding is prohibited on any elevation. They are using a fiber cement board. So that is a discussion if you wish to have about how those work together and the elevations. Also, while not in the MC district, elsewhere in the code, it does say that EFS should be limited to 30%. They are only making a minor change. The front is staying largely as is. So therefore, we did not have an issue with the use of the materials at this time. You can see here is where they're adding new EFS to enhance the entrance, clinic entrance on the north side of the building. And you can see here the metal coping, a smooth face fiber cement, rain screen panel on the new addition for the second floor, and how that fits in with the building is up for your discussion. As they've indicated, they plan to address the noise level. If you want to include a specific requirement, I'm sure we can work with the applicant on specific language to include. I'm not sure I could follow what she said for a text code, but we can work on that if that's what you want to include as part of your recommendation. And it is specific that you approve the reduction of the parking space for compact cars. There we go again. The proposal does include new landscaping or filling in landscaping within the readjusted parking lot islands. Andrew Frank is here tonight if you wish to discuss that, but his initial thoughts that it met with the code. At the time of the staff report, we did not have his final comments, but he provided them later, and he can certainly address those if you have any questions. And therefore, we recommend approval.
All right, any questions from any member of the commission for either the applicant or staff, or Mr. Frankie, if we have those questions, I guess. We do have his report, actually, as well.
On the, excuse me, allergies. On the north elevation to the east of where the new addition goes, the existing concrete block, is that going to be painted or left as is?
Could you, sorry, could you please, yeah, we're recording, so if you could go back to the podium, thank you.
Currently, the block is painted, and it is in good condition. So anywhere, obviously, that we would disturb it, we would paint it in the same color.
To match.
To match, yes.
So your description of the STCs, et cetera, there's no plan view. Are there any exterior windows where the dogs are walked or not?
There is one opening towards the back, as noted in the west elevation. All other windows, though, are on the second floor where the offices are.
Okay. No other questions?
Any other members? Any member of the public wishing to address the commission on this application? Mr. Frankie, anything to add on this? Again, we have your report. We appreciate that. Anything that you wish to add?
No, they complied with everything.
I always like to hear that. All right, we have a conditional use permit and site plan before us. Obviously, would entertain a motion from the commission at this point.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Shearing.
I move to recommend approval of the conditional use permit and site plan for the APA at 1705 South Hamline Road as discussed in tonight's meeting for the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Does that include the modified hours as requested by the applicant?
With the note that the hours are Saturday and Sunday, not just Saturday as indicated in our staff report.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Moran. Roll call vote, please.
Mark Favazza.
Yes.
Matt Foreman.
Yes.
Carl Carlin.
Yes.
Jeff Hunt.
Yes.
Jeff Moore.
Yes.
Lisa Shearing.
Yes.
And Paul Moran, yeah. Unanimous, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Moran. We look forward to this also moving forward to the Board of Aldermen on the 16th.
Yes, this will have a public hearing and first review at the Board of Aldermen on May 16th, Monday.
Thank you very much. Next item of new business is 22008 Site Development Plan for Quattro Development to remodel the existing bank building to a veterinary hospital at the property addressed as 2101 South Brentwood Boulevard. Is the applicant here? Good evening. You could state your name for us and please introduce us to your proposal.
My name is Brett Dahlman. I'm with Quattro Development, the developer of the project, and in support of our tenant, Veterinary Emergency Group, also known as VEG, which I will call them VEG from here on out, because it's easier to say. So this is the existing or former PNC Bank. located at the southwest corner of Brentwood Boulevard and Pine Avenue, I believe it is. The intent of the project, I did, it's blinking white. Sorry,
Just 1 second.
technical difficulties. Oh, I need to do that other thing, don't I? Sorry, he told me that. Popped up though, or did it? There we go.
I have them in the staff report and on the board docs. I can pull them up if you. Oh. Loaded onto the city computer.
Yeah, that's true.
And I do think
Actually,
everyone
I
has
can do
access.
that.
I will note everyone has access to it. Yeah. It's harder for the public to follow along, though.
Strange.
We
All right,
will
take
overcome
two.
technology, Mr. Dahlman.
Yep. Take two. Brett Dahlman, Quattro Development. We're the developers of the project in support of our tenant Veterinary Emergency Group, also known as VEG. There are 2 or 3 members of VEG on Zoom to answer any questions, operational questions that you might have, and there's actually a PowerPoint I'm going to bring up to let them walk through. As I mentioned, this is the existing PNC Bank located at the southwest corner of Brentwood Boulevard and Pine Avenue. Our intent is to renovate that existing bank and turn it into the emergency veterinary care clinic for VEG. I've got the civil engineering drawings up in front of me right now. This is the demolition plan. Any of the cross-hatched areas shown on there are existing pavement or sidewalk to be removed. As you'll see, there is a parking stall being removed up along Pine Avenue. That's strictly due to the site vision triangle from the intersection of the roadway. The remaining pavement to the west of the building and to the south of the building will be removed. The existing drive-through canopy will be maintained and actually walls constructed around it and turned it into more or additional office space for the clinic. The areas we will, let me go to the next page here. This is our site plan. You can see the drive-through canopy has been enclosed and added into the building. We are creating 4 additional parking stalls directly to the north of that. The remaining, what was paved area, drive-through, coming around the west and south side of the building will be turned into grass area. It's basically a pet relief area. Relief as in get the dogs outside to move around after their surgeries. We are creating an additional parking stall also at the southeast corner of the building. All told, there are 26 parking stalls. I think the staff report stated 24, but I think the numbers on the drawings were miscalculated along the north run of parking, but there are 26. 13 are required. We are reducing impervious space, impervious hard surface on the site as well by removing the pavement. All told, we've got roughly 4,426 square feet of the existing bank. We're adding in the 761 square feet of the drive-through canopy for a total of approximately 5,187 square feet. Next plan is a grading plan. We're maintaining existing drainage patterns throughout the site, keeping stormwater draining in the directions that they were originally before our improvements will be constructed. The next is the landscape plan. Per the review of the city consultant, there were 2 boxwood shrubs along the north portion of the property, roughly in the general area where we're removing the parking stall. One was missing, one was dying. We're going to be replacing both of those. In addition, we will be adding landscaping to screen the new or the drive-through, the former drive-through portion of the bank. And then turf, sod, grass, whatever it may be along the remaining portions of the west and south of the building. From an architectural standpoint, we'll bring up the exterior elevations. The area that's kind of dimmed down a little bit, that is the existing bank. You can see the new walls created around the drive-through enclosure. Although the colors are slightly different, that's only to depict existing versus proposed conditions, but the new brick that would be used for the walls of the drive-through enclosure would match the brick on the building itself, or the existing building itself. So this is showing the north and east elevation of the building. And then similarly, the south and the west elevation as well. Yeah, in a nutshell, brief, that's kind of what the scope of work is. I would like to open it up. I don't know who from VEG is going to be able to speak. I know we have Jen, Amanda, and I believe Graham on Zoom. Is there a way for them to raise a hand or something like that to volunteer to speak?
Yeah, there's a raise your hand button at the bottom of the page if anyone wants to speak. Jennifer Hamline?
Yes, hi everyone. Can you guys hear me? I don't know if you can see me.
We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Okay, fantastic. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jennifer Hamlin. I'm the Director of Real Estate and Development at Veterinary Emergency Group, also known as VEG. Wanted to come on here quickly and thank you guys for hearing this case tonight. We're very excited to be bringing our business to Brentwood. A little bit of background on us. Veterinary Emergency Group is a nationwide group of urgent care and emergency care hospitals for pets. We operate 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, bringing the communities we operate in a dedicated daytime and after hours emergency only service. So we've been working with Quattro on this property. We're very excited, as I mentioned, to bring our business here. Brett, I can't see the PowerPoint, so I don't know if you want me to just chat through the PowerPoint or if you want to go through the PowerPoint a little bit, up to you.
I would say you can just chat through it. Do you have it in front of you?
I do not, but I can pull it up very easily. So if you just give me half a second to pull it up on my screen, and then you can just, I guess, move along with it.
I'm on page 2 right now.
Fantastic. So as I mentioned, we are a nationwide group of emergency and urgent care hospitals for pets. We currently operate coast to coast. This will be our first location in the state of Missouri, which we're very excited about. So if we want to actually just move on to the next slide, Brett, and those are just some photos of our hospitals. So something very unique about coming to a veg facility is we operate unlike any other type of whether that's a general practice or another veterinary ER. So when everyone comes to a veg, you actually get to come directly to the back of our facilities and you get to stay with your pet for every step of the way. So as you'll see, we've outlined kind of what a visit to veg looks like. So our facilities are designed specifically around what we call our treatment area. So you are never separated from your pet, and because that's what makes people and their pets most comfortable. So if your pet is getting surgery, you can watch. If they're having an x-ray taken, you can stand outside. If they're getting blood taken or having stitches done, you can be with them for every step of the way. We actually, one of our cornerstones is finding a way to say yes, no matter the request. If your pet is hospitalized overnight and you want to FaceTime with them, yes. If you want to hang out with them during the day on a beanbag chair, yes. It's a very customer immersive experience because a lot of people have never had that experience of bringing their pet during an emergency to a veterinarian and getting to stay with them. We also collaborate directly with our customers' primary veterinarian. So we do work directly with all the general practices in the communities. Since they are not open overnight, they do refer us business. So we like to collaborate with them when they open back up in the morning. Brett, we can move on to the next slide. Wanted to show you guys a little bit about what our build out looks like. So we have a very specific, unique boutique build out. As I mentioned, you know, the treatment area, which you can see on the left hand and the right hand of those photos, that's where kind of all of the action and the magic happens. So we have everyone back there, the doctors, the nurses, the customers, the pets, everything is going on in the back. So our hospitals are designed to maximize that area so people can stay with their pets for every step of the way. And of course, we're equipped with all of the newest veterinary technology. So we have our own radiology suites, surgery suites, and we run most of our diagnostics in-house. We also have very high-end finishes, custom cabinetry. We import our flooring from Italy. We do have exposed ceilings. One of the fun facts I love to give is the baby changing station that's in our bathrooms is actually imported from France. Brett, if we want to go to the next slide. Wanted to run through with you guys some of the most common FAQs we get. So as I mentioned, VEG is a dedicated emergency only provider. So we don't do anything that a general practice would typically do in their practice. So we don't do wellness visits, we don't do spays or neuters or vaccines. So we're there to offer support for emergency issues such as vomiting, diarrhea, hit by a car, your dog or cat ingest something they shouldn't, other injuries, etc. As I mentioned, we do not perform any routine care. The biggest question we probably get is there overnight boarding? The answer is no, we do not board. If there is an animal on premises overnight, it's because they are hospitalized and they're under direct supervision by a doctor. The biggest, most common example I will give is there is a vast difference in the human world of going to a hotel overnight and staying in the hospital overnight. So while there are pet hotels that exist, that is not our business. We are the pet hospital overnight. Do we soundproof our hospitals? Yes, of course we do. We operate 29 locations across the country. This is not our first rodeo. We'll have about 50 by the end of this year and about 80 by the end of 2023. Every hospital is investigated by our design and construction team, so we can implement noise mitigation measures that ensure that that hospital doesn't interfere with any of our nearby neighbors. So we do address each hospital's design for additional insulation. We also install sound batting on some of the walls and the ceilings so that we can make sure that pets that are being treated there are not making, outside noise. Based on our experience though, unfortunately, most pets are sick or injured, so they're not making much, if any, noise when they're in our facility. And then what kind of pets does Veg treat? I'd say about 90% of our patients are cats and dogs, and then the rest are small household animals, such as rabbits, guinea pigs, birds, and some reptiles. I think, Brett, it's probably not necessary for us to go through the entire noise, odor, and waste mitigation slides, but they're there if they're necessary. And then the last page, we just have some quotes by some of our customers. As I mentioned, we are a very customer-centric business. I think it's a very unique concept, especially for people that have never had the opportunity to stay with their pet in an emergency situation. When you come into a veterinary hospital in an emergency, the last thing you want to do is leave your pet. Same thing if you have a child and you were to bring them to the pediatrician or the ER. No one would ever take your child away to the back and leave you in the front. That's the same concept we have at Veg. So as I mentioned earlier, we are extremely excited to bring our use to Brentwood. We thank you guys for listening, and I will hand it back over to you, Brett, but I am here and on if you guys have any questions specifically about Veg and our operations.
Thanks, Jen. With that, we'll open it up to any questions that you might have.
Actually, I think we'll go to staff report first, and then we can ask questions from the commission. So thank you very much. Ms. Kelly.
Whitney Kelly on behalf of the city of Brentwood. As the applicant, I need you to hit the okay. As the applicant has already discussed, they are enclosing the existing drive-through for the PNC Bank to make it part of the building. The subject property is 0.68 acres, and veterinarian or animal hospitals are listed as a permitted use for properties over half an acre. The animals are kept only overnight if they are hospitalized and under the supervision of the doctor. No general pet boarding services are provided, therefore it did not require a conditional use permit. As they show, they are closing the drive-through. The zoning code does have a maximum site coverage of 65%. They are actually decreasing the overall site coverage from 73 to 64 due to the removal of the drive-through lane. And they are also adding some additional landscaping. The city's landscape architect provided an initial review of the proposal, and the revised were addressed and are in the packet of board docs, and he felt that that was sufficient for this project. They are also adding additional upright evergreens along the blank wall to provide a breakup of that space. Elsewhere in the code, it does talk about facades needed to have some sort of element to break it up. So they are adding some upright landscaping to provide greater interest in that area. The one question that was discussed was that while CBUD did not provide a traffic impact, they didn't feel like the need warranted it. He just provided a comment that maybe they should explore an accessible path from the public sidewalk to the main entrance. However, due to the grade changes, providing for such would require the removal of 2 of the large existing street trees and would therefore make them non-conforming, as well as some of the bushes. So given the applicants are utilizing an existing building largely as is, it would be up to the Planning and Zoning Commission if you do feel like they needed to include an ADA pathway. But you can see that here is because of the grade change, it would require a great deal of length of landscaping to be removed in order to provide for such. So we have not included that as a condition at this time, but if you wish to have that added, we can do so. Otherwise, we felt that it met with the requirements of all the code.
No concerns with ADA accessible parking, though, I believe. I saw
Correct.
that in the graphic there. Okay.
Yeah, that, they already provided that, and then, yeah, they're providing 2 ADA accessible parking.
Mr. Dahlman, just, and this may be actually a question for Ms. Hanlon instead. This was a bank, so obviously not open 24 hours other than the ATM. This is a 24-hour facility. Can you give us a general idea of understanding that CBB said that they didn't expect any traffic impacts, but what's the general throughput, I guess, in terms of usage for the facility, especially at nighttime, I think would be the question there.
Jen, is that something you can respond to?
Yes, it is. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Fantastic. So even though we do operate 24 hours a day, the bulk of our operation is really busy starting around 5, 6 p.m. to about 9 or 10 p.m. at night. The reason for that is most people are getting home from work or they're out for the day and they're coming home and they're finding their pet has unfortunately had some type of medical issue. And by 6 p.m. at night, most general practices are closed. So that's where we get those referrals from. So I'd say we see between 6 p.m. and 8 a.m., which is the next morning, probably anywhere from 8 to 10 cases. So it's not a huge amount or a huge influx of cases coming in at once. We do not take appointments, so people come in, it's just walk-ins. People do call ahead, so we are able to anticipate, what that load will look like. It's pretty quiet from about 11 p.m. on. Not to say that people don't come in, but there's not, 50 people coming in all at once in the overnight hour. And we see probably about, 5 to 10 cases during the day.
Thank you. Any questions from any other members of the commission? Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regarding the fence line along the southern border of the property, and it wraps around to the west, does that stay in place? Does that become part of the exercise yard?
Yeah, it's specifically called to remain on the plan, so we intend to keep that and reuse it. I believe it's a vinyl fence, 6 to 8 feet tall, I believe. Yeah.
So on the inside of the fence, then, this turf that you mentioned earlier butts right up to it?
Correct. Yep.
That answers my question.
I have a question. The new addition portion, or under the existing roof, what's the intended use for the interior of that?
I believe
It's shown as
is that what it calls?
storage.
Yeah, it's storage
So,
area.
so the remainder of the question is, I think the elevations as submitted are missing some detail that actually in the existing building. So there's some soldier course brick and some other things that sort of break up the expanse of the existing masonry. And I see it's absent both in the existing drawing and in the new drawing. I would think that, I'm not sure how to phrase this as a new member of the board, but I think there's a need to get some of that detailing onto the new building as well. So if there's storage, windows are hard to argue for, I'm afraid, but that's something you could do if you wanted. I think some detail, though, to bring it into line with the existing building, more than just the color of the brick, would probably be really helpful.
Right.
So,
Any other questions? Mr. Moran.
Yeah, with it being a 24-hour facility, the bank's closed outside banking hours, right? So is this going to look like Vegas with all kinds of signs so people can see it from the road when they're rushing their emergency animal case into the place? So what are the lighting kind of implications to the neighborhood?
I don't believe the comprehensive sign plan has been submitted, so currently, I believe that with this, it will have to conform with our existing sign ordinances.
Okay, all right,
And
thank you. Yeah.
if a change wanted to be made, it would have to be submitted through us again. Is that your understanding as well?
Yep.
Okay.
And just to clarify, there's no plan modification to lighting to account for overnight 24-hour operation.
We're not planning on changing any of the site lighting on site. Yeah.
Any other questions from commissioners? And I do want to echo the same thing. I know that you were calling out the new addition or the new walling in specifically, but having that visual detail I think would be important. Any members of the public, either present or online, I don't see a whole lot of present, but online, wishing to address the commission or the applicant on this issue? Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion.
Yeah, I move to recommend approval of the site plan for the exterior modifications, the property addressed as 2101 South Brentwood Boulevard, per the conditions as presented in the staff report and drawings reviewed at this meeting.
Motion by Mr. Moran. Do I have a second? Oop. Is that included in your motion, Mr. Moran?
Yes.
May I ask, is that acceptable to the petitioner? All right. That's always helpful. We have a motion with an adjustment. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Favazza. Roll call, please. Yep.
I just wanted to point out. Just want to point out a clarification on the condition number 4. It says all lighting shall comply with section 1880. That should be section 400.1880 of the zoning ordinance. I just wanted to clarify that. I don't know if that needs a motion.
Mr. Dahlman, so actually let us make sure that we're clear about that. Ms. Kelly, could you repeat that so that we can get the motion clear?
Yeah, the condition number 4 says all lighting shall comply with section 1880 of the city's zoning ordinance, and that should read section 400.1880
Of the city zoning ordinances.
of the city zoning ordinance.
Mr. Moran, is that acceptable to you?
It is.
Mr. Favazza?
Yes.
All right. Thank you for the correction. We have motion. We have a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mark Favazza,
Yes.
Matt Foreman,
Yes.
Carl Carlin,
Yes.
Jeff Hunt,
Yes.
Moore. Yes. Lisa Shearing,
Yes.
and Paul Moran. Yeah, that's another unanimous carry, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Appreciate your application, and I believe the 16th we've been hearing, so.
Yes, this will go for first review at Board of Aldermen for May 16th. It does not require a public hearing. So.
All right, our last order of new business is 22009, a conditional use permit for Scissors and Scotch, a men's hair salon and bar located within Brentwood Point Shopping Center at the tenant address of 8432 Eager Road. Is the applicant present or online?
They were going to be online. We will bring them forward.
Thank you. I believe we see a hand up.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can.
Hi. Welcome, Brentwood. Thank you for having me. My name is Phil Doherty. I'm an architect with Sloggy Architects out of Kansas City, Missouri. And I'm the one, hopefully, just for a short time, presenting this project to you. Sloggy Architects is the prototypical architect for the Scissors and Scotch brand. There are approximately 25 of these stores throughout the country, and they are exploding. We've done about 15 of them, and this is our latest one. We have several of them in Kansas City where I am based, and we're honored to bring this product to Brentwood. It is essentially a tenant improvement project that is going to be within the Deerberg's Brentwood Point Shopping Center. There's a space there that's approximately a little over 2,000 square feet where we're looking to place this tenant improvement. It is essentially a high-end men's hair grooming salon. And in that salon, it has a bar. And so that's basically the composition of this tenant improvement. They're very popular. They do very well. And they're specifically situated in areas where they are expected to do very well. There will be a liquor license that will be dedicated to this business. And we have no exterior patios or anything outside that attracts any of the activity from the inside to the outside. Since this falls under cocktail lounges, that is the need for the license. And essentially, when patrons go in, they're able to have a drink at the lounge. They're not able to take the drink into the grooming area. Essentially, that separated use for that kind of operation. Not a whole lot to say about this. This is kind of a tenant improvement project. That's truly what it is. So it's probably the only tenant improvement discussed tonight. I believe it is as simple as that. And if there are any questions, I'll gladly answer them as best I can.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty. I think we'll go to staff report, but hang on the line if you don't mind.
I certainly will. Thank you.
Ms. Kelly, staff report, please.
Whitney Kelly on behalf of the city of Brentwood. I did not do a PowerPoint as this is a very easy essentially a tenant space review, and there's no changes to the exterior building of the site. It is a 2,229 square foot tenant space located within the Deerberg's Brentwood Point, adjacent to the subway. Because they have a bar, it does require a liquor license, and as a tavern or bar, it does require a conditional use permit, which is why we're before you tonight. The site in 2010 received a authorization for a 25% parking reduction for all of the uses within the shopping center. So doing a calculation of all of the existing uses along with this tenant space, they would have a surplus of 154 spaces on site. And therefore, we don't foresee any parking issues with this applicant. And as they are not making any changes to the exterior of the building or the site, that was the only key point of review. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Doherty, I don't know if you can answer this one, but a similar question I asked the previous applicant. In terms of utilization, I see your hours of operation here, 7 days a week, 10 to 8, Monday through Thursday, 9 to 7 Friday, and 9
That is correct.
Yeah, 9 to 6, I assume, Saturday, and then 10 to 5 on Sundays. Do you know roughly the percentage of breakdown of patrons who utilize just the lounge facility versus the stylist facility? Is there kind of a breakdown of that, or do you have just a rough idea there?
I don't, as far as participation. I mean, right now, this facility utilizes 12 grooming stations. We have 5 shampoo stations, and then we have a bar that is able to seat 10 to 11 with a small lounge space that has lounge seating. I don't typically monitor the activity in terms of how many people are there at a certain hour or at peak times. But that's the best that I can describe to you as far as the seated positions for activity.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant or for staff? Any members of the public? Seeing none. Any members of the public wishing to address the commission on this application? All right. With that, we have an application in front of us. I will entertain a motion.
I move to recommend the approval of the conditional use permit for Scotch and Scissors within the Deerberg's Brentwood Point Shopping Center at 8432 Eager Road, as discussed in tonight's meeting.
A motion, Mr. Faza. I have a second.
Seconded.
Second by Mr. Moran. Roll call vote, please.
Mark Faza.
Yes.
Matt Foreman.
Yes.
Carl Carlin.
Yes.
Jeff Hunt.
Yes.
Jeff Moore.
Yes.
Lisa Shearing.
Yes.
Paul Moran. Yes. Unanimous. Mr. Chairman, in favor.
Thank you, Mr. Moran. We'll move forward on the 16th, again, to the Board of Aldermen.
Yes, this will require a public hearing that is scheduled for the 16th on Monday, and first review as well at the Board of Aldermen. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty.
Very grateful. Thank you.
Next item of business is Aldermanic Report. Seeing no alderman, although we do have a mayor in attendance, but we will let him have a pass on this. Director's report, if you don't mind, Ms. Kelly.
We have not received an application for the June meeting, so you might have that meeting month off. I am anticipating an application for July, so we will send out that notice once we actually get that application, and I have no further comments.
Very happy to see the business.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
And
Yes.
it is time for the annual ethics thing. It was financial disclosure, so those that were serving in 2021, the new members do not need to fill it out yet. But if you can go online and fill it out, and please return it to Jessica, and we will get that filed for you at the state. Or you can go to the state and file that yourself as well.
Let me know.
But let us know so we have that record too.
Got to send a copy and make sure you save it, because sometimes it gets submitted and it's hard to get a printable version. From experience, I will let you know that. So appreciate it. It's good to see so much business in front of us. We appreciate that. So thank you for all the work that you're doing on this and others. Any other items of business from the commission? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn? So moved. Motion adjourned. A second?
Second.
We stand adjourned.